Alrighty, so the first real review of 2024 on this channel, and I say that is because, technically I already done a match review earlier in January when I did the review of El Salvador versus Inter Miami, but this is actually the first time I'm doing a review of a competitive game, and the first time I'm doing a review of an MLS team involving in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and already we have some free space disappointment involving MLS team in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and that coming into this game, we knew this was going to be a monumental task for the Vancouver Whitecaps against Tigres. And to be fair, the Whitecaps played well in this game. But as the narrative goes, there's a reason why Tigres is considered to be an absolute giant killer for MLS team. I mean, it doesn't really matter if an MLS team play well against Tigres, or in this case, the Whitecaps playing well at home in this game against Tigres. And I say at home with a quotation mark because technically they're playing on Vancouver Island and they're playing at the home of Pacific FC. But still, it's close enough to being on. It's close to being in the Vancouver region. But yeah, it doesn't really matter if you have an MLS team like the Whitecaps playing well against the Tigres. The narrative is that Tigres will always find a way to pull through and give some disappointment in the CONCACAF Champion Cup for an MLS team. And not to mention, also, they have a guy called Andre Pierre who is not only the father of the CONCACAF region, but he's pretty much the father in terms of MLS team and always find a way to score a heartbreaking blow to MLS team with a crucial goal. And guess what? It happened again in this one. So early on in the first half, just want to mention that there was a lot of Tigres fans inside the stadium. They even had their supporter group in one of the stands, and they were very loud throughout the game. And I also said that just like BC Place, Starlight Stadium pitch is also turf, which I thought that favorites the Vancouver Whitecaps because the Whitecaps they already know how to play on turf, so this is going to be familiar with them, even though that this game is taking place outdoor instead of in the retractable roof that is BC Place. And by the way, the reason why this game is at Langley instead of in Vancouver is apparently BC Place were having like a garden show, and because the Whitecaps don't actually own BC Place, the city of Vancouver does. Yeah, they couldn't really really figure that out in terms of the Whitecaps playing at BC Place. They don't get the priority out of that, so that basically forced them to play at Starlight Stadium. So I'm pretty sure Seattle fans would also know how that feels, especially of a certain car show that basically delayed one of the playoff game that they had before. But anyway, in the second minute, we had some coming together as Krylak and Pizarro was having choice words. Believe it or not, this was really kind of the only time where there was a coming together between both of these teams. And knowing that this is an MLS versus Liga MX game in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, you knew that there was going to be some coming together. Though I was kind of surprised that that was the only time. It wasn't really that heated compared to these other MLS versus Liga MX kind of match. Though I have a feeling that could be different as we get deeper into the tournament or even in the second leg of this tournament. But in the fourth minute, Alberto Angulo did go on his bike, but he whips that one. That would have been a spectacular goal if he would have connects that. But there was no doubt that Tigres was all over the Whitecaps early. Like they had all the possession. Vancouver was kind of electing to sit back. But I also think that for the Whitecaps, knowing this is their first competitive game, they were just trying to get themselves back to match fitness. And we talk about the tough thing of them have to face the giant of the CONCACAF region like Tigres, but now add to the fact that this is actually their first competitive game and them getting back to competitive sharpness. They were really hoping that they don't go 1 or 2 nil down early in this game. But to be their credit, they have limited the shots as the shots were only 2-0 for Tigres 11 minutes in. Though in the 20th minute, Takaoka would deny Gignac after a bad turnover from Vancouver, and then he denied Carioca after another bad turnover from the Vancouver Whitecaps. So yeah, turnover was a problem for the Whitecaps early. And they had to stop that because yeah, if you give even more turnover to this Tigres team, they're gonna eventually capitalize. But in the 20th minute, we did see the first shot for Vancouver that saw a goal just miss high from close range. I thought they started to get themselves into the game and gain a foothold into this one after that. And little did we know that they would get the opening goal of the game, as in the 32nd minute, Damir Kralek, who made his debut in this game against the Whitecaps, he scored here from Brian White to give the Whitecaps a 1-0 lead. It was a good little combination between White and goal, and then it falls to Damir Kralek. We'll be surprised those three will be a common theme in terms of me saying who scored the goal and who, of course, assist the goal. But yeah, that made it 1-0 in favor of the Whitecaps. Herrera did look to respond, but he was denied by Takaoka from close and on the volley too. That was a great save there from Takaoka, who really was one of the reasons why Tigres was not on the score sheet for a very long time. I mean, he was definitely standing on his head at times in this game and keeping this game scoreless in the first half. But in the 44th minute, Quinones would blast one back to Vancouver proper. I mean, that was nowhere near for a goal. But there was then a shout for a PK for Tigres that was not given right on the stroke of halftime. They actually did check VAR for a bit to see whether or not if there was a penalty. There wasn't, and they blow the halftime whistle. So we had to halftime scoreless, or actually no, not scoreless. I'm sorry, but Vancouver leading 1-0. Again, this is the first real review of this year, so apologies if I'm mixing my words or just kind of get myself back to doing review kind of sharpness, as it is the case for a lot of these MLS team back to match sharpness, or at least competitive match sharpness, that is. But we head to halftime with the Whitecaps leading 1-0. In the second half, Laborda would flash one wide from long range. Before we thought the Whitecaps made it 2-0. And really, I thought Vancouver got off to a good start in the second half, and it looked like they were rewarded with White putting the ball into the back of net. The problem was the goal was disallowed for offside, and actually VAR disallowed the goal for offside. And the only thing I can think of is I think Schrupp was in an offside position as the one of the shot was blocked off the line there. Again, you don't have to touch the ball. If you're in the line of sight and you're in offside position, then yeah, that is going to be offside. So that's a tough rate for the Whitecaps. It remained 1-0 in this one, and then White did try to score the second again, but he heads it wide from close range. And again, it was a promising start for Vancouver. They were pushing for a second goal in this one, though Herrera curls it just wide from close range before Carioca puts it wide from long range in the 64th minute. And just like that, the momentum was back with Tigres. They were pressing to try to get the equalizer, but most importantly, the away goal. There was a shout for a penalty once again in the 70th minute for Tigres not given. Vite would then pulls it wide from the top of the arc, and I just thought Vancouver need the second goal because knowing how I've seen this before with MLS team having their opportunity to bury their opponent or even bury a Liga MX team and they don't take advantage of it. This just feels like the script is gonna say that Vancouver is probably not gonna hold on to this 1-0 lead. Garza then puts it wide in the 75th minute, but Tigres feel like he was brought down in the box as Garza pulled a shot wide. The referee says no penalty. And then on the other end, there was a shout for a penalty for the Whitecaps that was not given. And then in the 80th minute, Pizarro would puts one wide from long range before Herrera would hit one right to Takaoka. And up to that point, I just thought Takaoka is determined to keep this clean sheet. Like he makes some big save throughout this game, but unfortunately, like I said, with the way that this one was keep at 1-0, I just had a feeling that Tigres was eventually going to get one opportunity to tie, or at least another opportunity late in this game to tie up, and I saw this coming. Even before when Andre Pierre Gignac struck this free kick, as soon as I saw that they gave up a free kick from about 22 yards out, yeah, that's when I had a feeling that the Whitecaps were doomed because you do not give Andre Pierre Gignac from that sort of range. I mean, he is just as automatic as Leo Messi's hitting a free kick from 22 yards out, and to no one's surprise, Andre Pierre Gignac scored from 22 yards out on the free kick. It was pretty much vintage Gignac and just kind of continued be the reason why he is considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest player to ever play in this CONCACAF region and just been an absolute killer to MLS team. And yeah, that ties the game up at one apiece, and that would be the final score of this game. As in the end, Tigres they get a draw out of this game, but most importantly, they get the away goal, and now Vancouver is going to have to win down in Mexico and down in El Volcan, which, by the way, throughout this game, the commentator have repeatedly said that Tigres have not lost this season at home under their new manager. So yeah, if I said before that the Whitecaps had already a monumental task to trying to move on into the round of 16 against Tigres. Now it's pretty much impossible. They had to win this game if they would have had a chance to beat Tigres down in Mexico, but they didn't do so. It ends in a draw. And the shots in this one, 16 shots for the 8 that the Whitecaps had, 2 shots on goal for the 7 that Tigres had, 8 shots off target for the 5 that Vancouver has. Both teams had 1 shot that was blocked, and possession-wise, 65% possession compared to 35% possession that Vancouver has. And honestly, now it's going to be interesting heading into next week what Vanni Sartini is going to do, because now it's a very interesting dilemma, because do you really want to kind of put your starting 11 still out there so you can maybe have be impossible and getting a win down in Alvoton, or maybe you just put some of your youngster, because as much as I know the Whitecaps want to at least do something in this competition. When we saw that they got the first round draw against Tigres, we knew they were kind of screwed from the beginning, and especially with this resort kind of didn't go their way. I mean, again, wouldn't I wouldn't mind if Benny Sortini would still put his best 11 down in Mexico, and I have a feeling he's gonna do so, because a guy like Manny Sartini is not just gonna back away, even if he's facing an impossible task, able to move on against Tigres and have to beat Tigres to move on into the next round. But in the logical sense, you could also say that maybe he didn't need to do that, especially with the season about to start after their second leg game. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting dilemma that the Vancouver Whitecaps and Vanni Sartini is gonna face. But like I said, I feel like he's probably gonna get his best team playing in that second leg against Tigres, and that again, we'll see how it's gonna go. We'll see if Vancouver can pull off a miracle or not, or we'll see whether is probably just going to score a goal or two, or even win that game down in Mexico and at their home. And that, yeah, Vancouver is probably not going to be part of the second round again. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of looking at this review of this game. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this game. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.